I don't know how to talk about a video game that I genuinely enjoy that just gets the wrong treatment. Don't get me wrong, there's a ludicrous amount of genuine and good criticism for this game. The wrong treatment I'm talking about comes from the developers themselves, and maybe partly from random internet people. In this video, I want to talk about all my problems with how Bethesda treats Fallout 76 and the community behind it. I want to talk about everything that is genuinely good in the game, and maybe dispel a rumor or two that circulate on the internet. Now, to say that Fallout 76 has had a rough launch would be a substantial understatement. And to say that Bethesda's public relationship team has had a lot of work and salvaging to do wouldn't be an exaggeration. The game was a mess, and Bethesda didn't quite know what to do either. Internet Historian has done a phenomenal video documenting the mistakes Bethesda made, both regarding the game and PR. I'd like to start this by telling you where exactly I come from. My two most played games are World of Warcraft and Path of Exile. Both games have an extensive endgame and heavily rely on RNG and grinding. I am no stranger to that. In fact, I enjoy being able to turn off my brain and play a game while I watch or listen to something on the side. I do, however, enjoy story-centric and or immersive RPGs. I didn't pay much attention to Fallout 76 at all after its reveal. Or after its release. Or up until short before Wastelanders when a friend bought it for me. I didn't really know what I was getting into. Let's start with the RPG aspects. The character creator is, if I am not mistaken, the same as in Fallout 4. You have a fair amount of customization. You can play around with the shape of your face and drag it around, although every region of the face you can select hides maybe 1 or 2 sliders. Like in other Fallout games, there is no class selection. Unlike in other Fallout games, you neither get to distribute your special points, nor do you get any form of skill selection. Instead, you start with 1 in every special, and with every level up until level 50, you get 1 point to distribute as you please. I think this is a good way to let players find out what specials they need by playing the game, instead of locking them into one particular build they might regret choosing later. Fallout 76 has a perk system similar to the one introduced in Fallout 4 in terms of what the perks do. However, instead of having to spend points to unlock your perks, you receive them in the form of perk cards. Every few levels, you receive a perk card pack containing 4 perks that you can freely equip and exchange. Each perk corresponds to one of your special points, and the number of perks you can equip is capped by how many points you have put in its particular special. Perk cards can also be combined to increase their power up to a certain point. Before launch, concerns were raised that Bethesda might try to sell perk card packs to players. However, upon reaching level 50 you will realize that you probably already have all the perks you want or need, and a few levels later you will be drowning in them, begging for Bethesda to remove the pop-up, incentivizing you to open another perk card pack every time you open the perk management menu. I feel like, in general, this is an improvement upon the system that Fallout 4 introduced, and makes experimenting and build swapping extremely easy. Now, all we need is a perk loadout system. Now, if you go into this expecting a life-changing experience in the vein of Planescape Torment or Disco Elysium or New Vegas, you're going to be very, I repeat, very disappointed. The story up until Wastelanders is okay at best. Before Wastelanders, Bethesda refused to add human or ghoul NPCs to the Wasteland, a decision that remains baffling to this day. The entire story is presented to you through notes, computer entries, and audio tapes. The story fully leans into the loneliness of its own world. Characters talk and write about the hardships and horrors that they have to endure in the wasteland of Appalachia. Sadly, this stands in contrast to what the character is incentivized to do by both the ending of the main story and by the endgame gameplay loops, in a case of the big ludonarrative dissonance. Put a pin in that. Right about now, I'd like to warn you that there are minor spoilers ahead. I tried to make them as vague as possible. Consider yourself warned. While some factions introduced, or reintroduced, such as the Brotherhood of Steel, fall flat. Seriously, Bethesda, at this point it's like playing Wonderwall at a party. The Free States approach the end time from a more anarchist point of view, which is interesting. They try to avoid unnecessary hierarchies and making the same mistakes that the government did. Although they still tend to flock towards natural leaders, those leaders don't gain their status through violence or power, but rather through knowledge and initiative. I am mentioning this because they're one of the more interesting factions Bethesda created, and I would really love to see them, with some characters not confirmed dead, returning in the future, in some way or another. Please, anything but the Brotherhood of Steel. Oh yeah, and there was a plague or something too, but don't worry, you cured it. And everyone cured it before you. And everyone will cure it after you. The plague will be perpetually cured. I know this is mostly a non-issue, but it's another instance of the big bad ludonarrative dissonance. Bethesda really can make a game where you, the player, aren't the biggest and the bestest hero, and it really shows more than otherwise in Fallout 76, with it being a multiplayer game. I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't be all that hard to just say that every single player makes another batch of cures or vaccines or whatever. Well, I guess the plague will be cured for eternity. Then Wastelander rolled around, adding dialogue to a Fallout game. Amazing. Truly revolutionary. Bold move. Very unexpected. I realize this feature was an improvement to Fallout 76, but I feel like Bethesda doesn't deserve praise for adding something so fundamental to a Fallout game. However, I will praise Bethesda for creating a better dialogue system than the one in Fallout 4. No BioWare knockoff system, no voice protagonists, no vague choices. And even though Wastelander's story is lackluster and mediocre at best, the way it is presented is lighthearted and fun. One of the very first quests happens to be maybe the best quest Bethesda has ever designed, in terms of reactivity to player choice. Strength in Number has you procure a very specific thing from a shop. It has many solutions based on quests you have done in the pre-Wastelanders main quest, special stats you have, skills you have, amount of effort you are willing to put into it, and your own ingenuity. I kid you not, the quest lets you solve it using the quirks of the game's engine. If there is one thing from Wastelanders I wish Bethesda to continue doing in the future, it is to make quests similar to this one. Now, besides a small roadside bar that appears out of nowhere and looks a bit out of place in the Wasteland, and the two non-factions that offer a higher variety of enemies to fight, this DLC introduces two new factions. And they are bland. On one side there are the Settlers, they're the good guys. They work hard to rebuild and sustain themselves. On the other side there are the Raiders. Yes, another iteration of the Raiders. And they're bad. They don't work hard. They take things that other people worked hard for with violence. But guess what? This time you can be a Raider, too. Again! Or a Settler if you wish. Or both. Yes, how about both? Now, from a gameplay perspective, this is probably the best way to go. You don't want to lock the player out of any option, especially when both of them have their own unique goodies that you have to grind for. However, from a story perspective, it really doesn't make any sense for the Settlers to still be on talking terms with you after you join and help the Raiders who, raid them. And with my detective cap on, I call this another case of the big ludonarrative dissonance. Wastelander also introduces a system similar to companions. Allies can join you at your camp and give you Bethesda's famous Radiant quests. They, however, can follow you around and you can only have one of them at any given time present. Two of them have a personal story-style questline. Most of the quests are Radiant. Every time you finish one, you unlock more story for your ally, as well as new dialogue options. The other three allies only give you Radiant quests. My only issue with the personal quests is that they're quite stretched out. Otherwise, their stories are fun and the characters are likable. Also, their voice lines can get quite repetitive. And yes, you can romance them. They're player sexual. I understand there's issues with such a system, but it's better than no LGBT representation at all, I guess. So, if the game is okay-ish, good at best during the story and leveling process, how is the endgame? 2 words. Time gated. The endgame consists of leveling to infinity and getting progressively better gear. How do you do that? You can kill legendary enemies, which randomly spawn throughout the world and during events. These enemies drop legendary versions of items for which you already know the plans. Legendary items being items with additional random modifiers. You can also do events which randomly trigger all across the map to get both gear and plans. Some of those are more inspired than others, such as Project Paradise, which has you collect food for cute wasteland creatures such as charred ghouls and glowing deathclaws, and then protect them from other predatory creatures. Some, such as Encrypted, are ridiculously hard. Seriously, you have to kill a robot that fancies itself sheep squatch. The robot is invincible and invisible unless players activate 3 electric pillars that damage them. I guess that would be fine if the robot wouldn't one-shot you no matter what. Other events are straightforward but XP pinatas, like Line in the Sand, where you defend an ex-Brotherhood encampment from hordes of Scorched, or Radiation Rumble, where you defend some scavengers from glowing ghouls and collect some ore while they do their thing, or Uranium Fever, where you protect some automated uranium miners from the mole miners that don't take so kindly to us mining in their caves. Then there's the big event, Scorched Earth, which triggers when a player nukes the Fissure Site Prime. This is supposed to be the peak Fallout 76 experience. You fight the Scorch Beast Queen and some of her lesser minions. I think this event would be more fun if A, the Queen wouldn't be such a goddamn bullet sponge, and B, if the event had more complexity to it. Have us activate some turrets, and please let them only target flying units and don't make their hits shake the entire screen and make aiming impossible. Maybe have us use some specialized turrets to weaken the Queen and make her less of a bullet sponge. I feel like the events are some of the best content in Fallout 76. Most of them are genuinely good and fun and rewarding. My main issue is that there's just not enough of them. At some point it all gets very repetitive. I know that they've already added a few events and plan on adding more. And that's good. That's the way. Thank you. Anyway, I went on a bit of a tangent. You can also buy most plans and gear from other players, from the automated vendors at their camps, with caps. It's a good incentive to visit other camps. Some of them are genuinely good and cute. It also makes caps quite valuable. The issue is, the only way to gain caps is to grind dailies and events, loot them from the few enemies who drop them, play the market yourself, or sell your stuff to the odd merchant who has a daily cap of 1,400 caps. I understand that just giving out more caps will only devalue them, and this is one of the least problematic time-gated systems, but it's frustrating nonetheless, and I feel like Bethesda saw this work and applied it to every single system afterwards, even if it didn't encompass player trading or interaction. Some crafting materials are only attainable by looting enemies and plants in nuked areas, which incentivizes the players to use the nuking system on areas with specific enemies and plants. This is such a weird choice when the whole story of the entire franchise is about how people are dealing with the hardships brought by the nuclear war, in Fallout 76 specifically in an area that wasn't directly nuked. I guess you're gonna have to fix that by nuking it once, or twice, or 300,000 times. Also, this might be very nitpicky, but it's so weird how small the nuke radius is, and how a while after the nuke, everything goes back to normal. Nothing really changes. Especially after creating the glowing sea in Fallout 4, it's baffling to me how the developers decided to make it so launching nukes in this is actually beneficial for you. Sure, the Overseer gets big angry with you when you finally meet her or whatever, but she forgives you after you tell her, yeah, that's what I had to do, and she goes full, you're like a child to me. Poor spoiled babies, launched a nuke to get the goodies. They didn't even think about how bad nukes are for them. Anyway, with Wastelanders and the Settlers and Raiders, Bethesda introduced a reputation system. This system is not only extremely grindy, but heavily relies on daily quests. that is a single daily quest per faction. For the settlers, you go recover a stolen piece of equipment. For the raiders, Bethesda were kind enough to give us 2 alternating daily quests. For one, you have to recover some components for their radio station. For the other, you go out and hunt a deserting raider and either kill them, convince them to go on a rampage against the settlers with a strength check, or convince them to rejoin the raiders with a charisma check. Sounds boring? That's because it is. Then there are some random encounters where you save some settlers or raiders from wasteland creatures, which gives you a minuscule amount of reputation for the corresponding faction. Then there's also a small raider encampment that accepts Mirelurk meat in exchange for reputation. The rarer the Mirelurk, the bigger the reputation reward is. This is obviously also on a daily timer. Like, come on, even World of Warcraft, who had an issue with dailies that led to a mass exodus of players, let you do more than one single type of daily per day. The entire grind to reach the level of ally with a faction is to unlock their unique plan rewards. The rewards at the end of the grind are plans for the Gauss shotgun for the settlers and the Gauss minigun for the raiders. These plans can be bought with a currency introduced in Wastelanders called gold bullions. Completing events and dailies gives you 2 to 5 treasury notes, which you can exchange for 10 gold bullions each. There is a daily cap of 200 gold bullions you can get with treasury notes. You can also acquire a total of 300 gold bullions per week with caps from a weirdly dressed guy at an exchange rate of 50 gold bullions for 1000 caps. To put this into perspective, the Gauss minigun costs 750 bullion, and you have to buy its 6 mods separately, and they all cost somewhere between 50 and 200 bullions. The shotgun costs 500 bullion and has 12 mods that all cost between 50 and 200. And there is a ton more stuff that you can buy with bullion, none of which is tradable with caps. I wanted to try to argue that having some time-gated content is necessary for a game, but there's just no argument to be made. If you wanted to grind non-stop until you got everything, you should have the ability to do so. If you didn't want to log on daily, you shouldn't have to. Let us spend our whole weekend playing instead of having us log in once a day for only an hour. Thank you very much. Sadly, I don't think this is something Bethesda is planning on doing, as showcased in their latest grindy edition, The Seasons. Yes, they added a battle pass to Fallout 76. And you can advance by completing arbitrary daily and weekly challenges, as well as by repeatedly earning 10,000 XP. While you don't have to buy the battle pass, at release people calculated that you couldn't afford to miss a single day, and even if you logged in every day and done all the challenges until the end of the seasons, you'd still have a couple of levels left, which you could conveniently unlock with Atom Points, which is the currency you can buy with real money, if you didn't want to grind a ridiculous amount of XP. After Backlash, Bethesda has tweaked the system and increased the amount of daily challenges available to you so that you can comfortably miss some days. The season itself rewards some add-ons that will let you buy level ups if necessary. However, in the end, it's just another system that makes it so you have to log in daily. Otherwise, most of the rewards in the Battle Pass are cosmetics, camp items, and miscellaneous utilities such as XP boosts and scrap kits, with the odd currency sprinkled here and there. So, if Bethesda doesn't allow us to log in and grind when we want to grind, at least they should make it so logging in and grinding daily is actually fun and rewarding by consistently adding more content to play. However, I suspect that the team working on Fallout 76 is becoming smaller, with people moving over to other Bethesda projects, making it hard to release significant updates for 76. New content is seeing delay after delay, with the latest update promising a new event, which had already been postponed once, albeit not delivering. This is sad because, frankly, the gameplay is solid and fun. I have no criticism in that department. As long as it is rewarding, it's an engaging experience. Anyway, there's some miscellaneous stuff I'd like to talk about. Just like Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76 has an in-game shop. Unlike ESO, there are nearly no utility or convenience items you can buy. Most of them are cosmetic only. Like ESO, there's a monthly subscription system that gives you unlimited storage for crafting items, plus the ability to create private lobbies for you and up to 7 of your friends, and a good deal of add-ons. This makes it so that unless you want to do a ton of inventory management, this subscription is necessary. In my eyes, this is the most despicable part of Fallout First, especially since the game is pretty focused on crafting. I don't care about private lobbies. I don't see why you'd want one unless you have more than 3 friends who also play Fallout 76. Play laugh track here. This is mostly a cooperative game. Being alone only makes the game harder. I guess they had to give us an incentive to even buy the subscription service in this economy, huh? The world is amazing. It's pretty big and it's extremely pretty. Maybe the best and most inspired one they've made since Morrowind. Sure, some areas are boring, but at least they're not ugly. They're eye candy. Well, now, there's a toxic valley up north, which is, well, toxic, and it shows. I assume Bethesda aimed to make it look inhospitable, but in that process, they actually made it both boring and ugly. It's just so bland. My favorite area is the Mire. I never thought I would say something like that about a swampy area in a game, but it has such a great atmosphere. You barely get to see the sun, there are some very strange creatures there, and some extremely outlandish places. I love it. So, what would I rate this game? I don't really have a rating system thought out or anything. It's nearly impossible to give a game a rating from 1 to 10, so I won't be doing that. I think I'll call this game okay, as in better than average, tending to good. That means it's not complete trash, it's not bad, it's better than mediocre. But it isn't quite a great game and it's far away from perfect. I'd buy it on sale, or play it if it's included in a service I'm already paying for. I don't know how to do conclusions. Goodbye. Hi, it's me again. Hi, it's me again. I'd like to thank you for watching this. I'd appreciate like the odd like and maybe a subscription. I'm currently working on a review for Disco Elysium and also for an album that I really loved this year. As in a music album. Yeah, so I'm planning on doing this more. I'd also like to thank Caden, who went through my script as I asked in a server for somebody to do so, and they gave me quite valuable feedback. In any case, now I'm really gone. Bye-bye.